Is this where I can sit?
Yes, yeah, you can get closer.
So y'all are gonna sit here and make sure we're doing it right?
Well, there's not doing it right. It may be prompted from stories that we've heard.
Yeah.
I'm just wanting to get,
Okay.
let's see what we can.
Well, the very first story that comes to mind that kills me is the story of when you hid in the back of Melvin's truck. Oh my gosh, that is the best.
That was a good day.
Okay, so explain.
Yeah,
So-
so explain what that story comes from. So
I wanted to go to town, and he was going to town that day, and he said, well, I'll take you if you'll get out there and wash my car for me. So I got out there and just scrubbed that car and got it spotless clean. And then when it was time to go and I was going to get ready to go, he says, well, I don't know why you're going to get ready to go. You're not going. And I said, oh, that just burnt me up. And so I got ready and went out and hid in the back seat of the car. And he came out and took off down the road. We got down the road probably a couple of miles. And I just jumped up in the back seat. Okay, let's go. And he slammed on the brakes. And the next thing I knew, I was in the floorboard. He got out of the car and opened the car door and dragged me out. Literally slung me out of the car. And he got back in the car and burned rubber going into town and left me there to walk back home all by myself. So that's what. Probably a couple of miles. It took me a while to get back.
So you should win Big Brother.
Oh, I'm telling you, I treated her so mean, and I think about that a lot now. And I think, man, I just wonder if she'll even talk to me today, because I really was. I don't know what is wrong with me. But I was just as mean as I could be to her, and I just, I'm ashamed of it now. But at the time, I don't know what is wrong. But
I have a friend, Betty Pollard, that's been my friend since I was in grammar school, and she has a sister that's Charlotte's age, and so we've known them forever. And just a few months ago, she was talking to me on the phone one day, and she said, you know, Barbara and I used to talk about, we're so glad we don't have a brother, because Melvin is so mean to them.
Boy, I had a legacy. I'm telling you, I had a legacy to live down after all that.
You had such a temper.
Oh, yeah, it's bad. Yeah.
He had a temper. And I think the biggest temper fit I remember is like, I don't remember how they would do it, but how somebody would give you a calf, and you would raise it, and then you showed it in these shows, and then when it had a calf, then you gave that calf to someone else that wanted to raise one. And he had this Jersey cow, and its name was Tootsie. And he was getting ready he was going to show this cow. And he was giving her a bath and everything, and Tootsie kept stomping around, and he got mad and just kicked the fool out of that cow. And then it had a big black knot on its leg, and he was going to have to show it the next day. I don't remember how that come, or how you explained the knot.
It was, I paid for my sins on those kind of deals. Every time I'd pull something like that, I was always sick of it. But at one time, I remember also on a, I don't know if it's that time or another time, but we'd wash those cows up and we'd clip the hair off of them. Well, it's getting close to time to take them to the show there or something, or we was already over to the showground. Anyway, I got the clippers and I clipped this cow, and about the time I got through all this clipping, suddenly the whelps started coming up all over this cow where I'd run those clippers down, and I had just these streaks of whelps on this cow. And man alive, I thought, how long is this going to take this to go down? I mean, it looked awful. I'm telling you, it looked like I took something and just beat the cow, But we did that every year, and it was part of the stuff going on. But I did all kind of stuff. I'm ashamed of all that stuff nowadays, and I'm glad Loretta finally forgive me about it, because she had a right not to, I'll tell you, on all that stuff.
Well, at a very early age, like young married, I was in a Sunday school class, and we had this special thing one night on forgiveness, and so I forgave him then, but I never did tell him about it till later.
You made me suffer it out, see? I paid for it, believe me, I did.
Melvin, what meant more than anything is when Brad and Bob had their 40th, when we threw them that wedding in Branson, and y'all came.
Mm-hmm.
Micah came, David, Karina came, everybody, like Lisa, everybody came for that wedding or whatever, and I know that it meant the world to her that y'all
Yeah, it was really.
that y'all came, and it was like a turning point in our family. And I just feel like that we've all been
a lot closer.
It's a real
since
pleasant
then.
time. It sure was.
Yeah, that was a great time.
We was going up back. I remember back on the farm when we were real young. I'm telling you, we didn't have nothing. I mean, we were at the bottom of the socioeconomic scale. I mean,
But
we.
you know, at the time, I didn't realize
yeah.
we were broke.
But well, we wasn't hungry. I can say one thing: we never went hungry. Never.
well, not
Never
with
in my
Mama like
life.
Mama.
I've never been hungry. That's one thing. We didn't have much, but we wasn't hungry.
Never went to bed hungry at night.
And but Mother was she was the glue that kept us together.
Yeah, she was.
And,
She was wonderful.
Daddy is, of course, he was uneducated totally. He could write his name, but that's about all he had. And he didn't. Back then, school didn't mean anything to them. Parents didn't care if they went or not.
They were just farmers. And they
Yeah,
were
just
happy
farmers. They
to
say, well,
be
he don't need to go to
happy.
school. I mean, he's just gonna be a farmer, and it's like that other. And so we kind of grew up with that deal. Mother recognized the fact that we ought to get educated.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord and I went to school at Mayfield, a little country one-room school over there. And earliest I remember that is whenever Nellie and him lived down there next to us, and they had two girls, Mary and Shirley, went with us. And Shirley was, I don't know how old she was, but we just went to 7th grade. But she babied me over at school and took care of me. And so I do remember back at the 1st grade, starting school there, and Miss Tribble was our 1st grade teacher. And we had three or four grades in one room, didn't we, on that?
Right. There were 2 teachers there, and each
Yeah.
teacher had like 3
Yeah.
classes.
I don't
3 or
think
4
it's
classes.
3 or 4 in my class, I think, something like that. But it was
3 or 4 kids like per grade.
per grade in my grade, yeah.
Really?
And so, we didn't have compared to what they have nowadays in schools. I'm amazed these kids what they're learning now. Just in the first 2 or 3 grades. But so I was kind of amazed that we all came out learning what we did. We didn't have trouble at school. We went right to Itasca and went to school and no problems. But we didn't have a lot of. We just learned the basic stuff, But we did learn how to add and divide
Sometimes
and
these
make
kids
change and.
Don't learn the basics.
And but
Right.
How old were you when you got polio?
I was let's see, I'd started in the 5th grade, and I missed. We were during the war. They jumped a grade on kids back then. I jumped from the 1st to the 3rd grade. So and then I'm in the 5th grade. I started school, went 2 weeks, and then got sick and had to fall out. And so that was during the 5th grade. So I was 6? I was about 10 or something like that, I guess, something like that. And that's quite a trying time. It was during the war. The rationing was on. You couldn't get gas. You couldn't get this, that, and the other. And because we farmed, we got a little bit more gas stamps. Well, when I got sick, they sent me up to, they took me up to Harris Hospital, Fort Worth. And you got to realize back then there was no polio vaccines. And we had an epidemic of polio. There was kids up there we'd go up to Harris Hospital there, and there's just kids in the hall sitting everywhere. I went up there once a week, and because I wasn't as bad off as a lot of them, the hospitals were full. So they taught Mother to give us these treatments. They call them the Sister Kenny treatments. And what that consisted of was we laid in hot packs about 10 or 12 hours a day, and they did calisthenics and stretched our muscles and bones. So they taught Mother how to fix these. They gave her patterns for their extremities and everything. It's made out of these army wool blankets. And then they put the wool on there, and they'd put it in the hot water, and then they'd wrap our legs with them and wrap that up, and we'd lay there with those things all day long and change them every hour. And we had and then once a week we went to Fort Worth. Well, if we hadn't had those gas stamps because we was farmers, I don't know how we'd have got enough gas to go to Fort Worth, because we had that old 29 Chevrolet, and we'd get on the road, and of course there's just that one road, 2-lane road to Fort Worth, and it come in up our ways and cut over to Hemp Hill and went downtown like that, and we'd go to Harris Hospital, and what they'd do to me at that trip, they'd do those calisthenics only worse. Boy, they really poured it on me then, and it really hurt. I mean, when they was trying to stretch all those muscles out, but when I saw the other kids up there is in worse shape than I is, I knew I wasn't near bad off like that. But we did that for nearly I don't know exactly how many months we did that, but it's almost a year, I think.
Did you get the packs?
Yeah, and I remember the day we went to Fort Worth, and they said, "Okay, we'll let you stand up and see if you can walk." They stood me up, and I couldn't walk, and the pain in my legs, this pain just shooting up my legs, and me trying to walk, and I couldn't walk. I had to learn to walk again. But we didn't, and you got to remember, we didn't have television. There wasn't nothing in the bed. I didn't have nothing to do. You either just, there was no television. We didn't even, I don't know if we had the radio then or what, but
I don't
think we even had a radio.
it may not then. It's just laying there.
Because I can remember when Daddy brought that little brown radio home.
We had they had one of the things that happened then, it really been a lot to me as I think about it. You know, no one had any money. It was all poor. But the church over there, they made up a box of presents. Whole box of them. There's enough for a month there. And they brought them out there and said, you can open one a day. About 1st December. And that was pretty good, I'll tell you. Because I was laying there and you look forward to that every day. Open up one. It's during the war, and then most of them was army toys and stuff like that. But it's made out of paper and everything like that, because there wasn't any metal or anything like that. But that meant a lot. And John Russell, my next door buddy down there, he had it the same time I did. We probably got it in the creek or something. I don't know where we got it, but we both had it about the same way. Neither one of us has got paralyzed. See, the polio we had didn't hit our lungs. The people who it hit their lungs, they couldn't breathe, and they had to put them in those big old iron lung things. There's a big old machine about as long as this table. There's these people's in there, and this thing is what made you breathe. And they laid in there for months, or maybe their whole life after that, just so they could breathe. But we didn't have any of that. Ours was just muscles, both of us. And I think my arms and muscles are small, and David and Ernest is both muscular. I'm pretty sure that had a lot to do with the size of my muscles whenever I got grown. I was always strong, but they weren't big or anything like that. And, but I missed that whole year, and then had to start back in 5th grade again. But I'm blessed every day because I saw hundreds of these kids that was partially paralyzed and just really sick. But we had a good time at Mayfield. We, you know, it's funny. We didn't have anything, but we'd go out at recess and we'd go out and play baseball. Just, you know, we didn't have to have all this stuff. We didn't have stuff. We just made stuff. We made do with what we had, and we rode the Itasca bus most of the time after we got on up there. After school was out in the afternoon, we'd have to wait there, and the bus would make the big rounds, and we'd wait an hour or better before we'd ever catch the bus. And the Itasca bus come out and pick us up and eventually carry us down there so we could walk on home. But,
How far did you have to walk after the bus dropped you?
oh, it's a mile or better, wasn't it? Yeah.
About a mile.
And that's another story about the mud.
Yeah.
We had down there. The mud is mud. I'm telling you, it's
Black,
mud,
boggy
black mud. And we didn't have a gravel one on our roads. It's all mud. It's just like a field out there. And when it rained, we had to walk. We had to walk and out to the bus through that mud. And we'd get up. If I didn't get up and take the car out when I'd start coming up thundercloud and there in the night, I had to get up and take the car out to the neighbor's house and leave it. If we didn't, we never would get to go anywhere, and then we'd have to walk out. So here we'd get up every morning, we'd get dressed for school, put on some old clothes over that, wear boots. And several years there, Loretta and Charlotte both got certificates from school for never missing a day.
Yeah, every year I got one. Every single year.
And they never missed a day. And I heard some of those girls over at school saying, yeah, I said, Lori and Charlotte, they never missed a day, and they live and all that, and we lived across the street, and we couldn't even get to school, you know.
I'll tell you a funny story. My best friend all through school she'd tell her mother, I want to go home with Charlotte when it rains. She thought that sounded like so much fun to walk a mile in the mud. And so I want to go home with Charlotte when it rains. So finally her mother let her go home with me one day when it was raining. And she said, do you know, never again has she asked to go home with you when it rained. She found out that was
That's not fun.
And I remember one time about him taking the car out, and we were going to church in Itasca at the time, and so I was going to be an angel in the Christmas play. Well, that was so important to me. I was so excited because I was going to be an angel in this Christmas play. And so just Melvin and I went. And so he and I walked out to the car in the mud.
He was nicer to you, right?
Oh, yeah, he was nicer to me.
Yeah, I was bad on Loretta, listen,
and we
I'm
had
telling
to
you.
climb over a barbed wire fence, and I tore my skirt, hung in the barbed wire fence, tore a great big hunk out of my skirt. Well, then we had to go by Travis and May's house, and she, you know, if you just got a big hunk tore out of your skirt, you can't fix that. But she just took and kind of whipped it back together. So went on to church, and I was the angel in the play. But anyway, he saw that I got there.
They had, see,
Okay, hang on. It's raining.
It's raining.
Oh, no.